Okay, so here today we're in a freezing cold day in Brighton, outside Windsor Court, which is owned by a company called Brighton and Hove. Now with me we've got Maria, and Maria used to live in these flats. So can you tell me what's going on in these flats, to your knowledge?
I don't think anything's progressed since I lived here in 2004 when I was placed here when I was pregnant. When I was placed here in 2004, this was actually a mother and baby unit. If you can see behind us, on the top floor at that time, there were scousers that were running heroin and crack from the top floor. I was placed here for my own protection because of severe domestic violence. The lifts never used to work. People used to be able to gain entry all the time because the locks were broken. As a result of that, my perpetrator was able to get into the property and attack me at 8 months pregnant. I was found lying unconscious in a pool of blood just here at 8 months pregnant, hemorrhaging because I've been beaten up by my perpetrator. He got 6 months in prison for this.
So to bring this into the current day, Bobby Carver was offered a flat here. I've yet to see any wheelchair access, so do you think this is suitable for someone with disabilities?
I don't think it's suitable for Bobby's needs. As we pointed out before, even if there was proper wheelchair access, the problems with Bobby's is that there was nowhere actually adequate enough for him to actually power up his wheelchair. So actually he'd still be isolated and stuck in his flat. So he would be no better off than he is at the moment. Also, this place is notorious for violence, for drugs, for the state of the properties. This has been going on since 2004. The properties, when I lived here, were damp and mouldy. They always come back and say that it's because of lack of ventilation and condensation, when we know that it's on the structural wall, so it's structural damage. So it's just passing the buck all the time. I was also confronted by one of the cleaners, a worker, a Scottish guy, I can't remember who he was, who came into my property without being asked and verbally assaulted me when I was 8 months pregnant after being attacked by my perpetrator for actually speaking out to the council about it.
And they carry out what are called revenge evictions. Now, in fact, hasn't there been a young lady evicted from here recently? Because
so we see Daniel Harris working with Ethrag.
Yeah. What's Ethrag, sorry?
I'm not sure what the abbreviation is for that, but it's part of the Brighton Housing Coalition. Right, okay. So it's one of the other groups that helps people with housing that are stuck in temporary and emergency accommodation. We've had Maggie recently, who has been revenge evicted. We've seen several single parents and parents been revenge evicted by Barron Homes because they keep complaining about the state of these properties.
So just to clarify, revenge eviction is when they make a complaint about the property and the landlord evicts them.
Yeah, that's correct.
And Barron Homes are actually quite notorious for this, are they not?
Yes, they are.
And Barron Homes are just round the corner in Prince Albert Street. So shall we have a pop round there and have a little word, see what they've got to say about this?
Yep, I think that's a good idea.
So behind me is the offices of Barron Homes. I'm now going to try and get an interview with Mrs. Nazilla Burko. Sorry, Mrs. Nazilla Blencowe, B-L-E-N-C-O-W-E. Let's go and have a look, come on. Hello. We're in. Hello there, we're here to see Mrs. Blencowe. Is Mrs. Blencowe in? Can we see Mrs. Blencowe, please? Can we see Mrs. Blencowe, please? Yeah, I know, but we're on social business. We want some answers about questions about Windsor Court. There's the logo there. Yeah, we're here to see Mrs. Blencowe about Windsor Court. Revenge. What are they called? Revenge evictions. Yeah, people being kicked out because they complain. Has any got any points now? Is Mrs. Blencowe in? You don't seem to know what I'm talking about. Revenge evictions. Yeah. Yeah, we're with Truthferretfilms. We're here to ask questions about Windsor Court. Now, it's come to our attention that those flats are not suitable for human habitation.
Okay, we have been in discussion with the council about this. I'm actually in the middle of arranging a meeting with the council to discuss this.
But you do know about it, you are aware of this situation?
I'm aware of the whole situation that has been raised by the, I believe it's ETHRAG and the councillors. So we're in discussion with them because our obligation is with the council.
Right.
And we're discussing all of this with them.
So this is in the hands of Brighton and Hove City Council now?
We had a meeting with them yesterday with the head of housing.
And yeah,
we're exchanging some emails at the moment to arrange a meeting.
Okay, but we're still getting complaints on a daily basis that there's revenge evictions, people scared to speak out. Have you got anything to say about that?
Again, they just need to pass everything over to the council. They can come and raise any issues they have with the council. We go and we look at stuff. We have photographic evidence of everything we do. We have reports from them. And that's how we look into it.
And more specifically about Bobby Carver, the disabled man. I'm not saying it's your fault.
I'm sorry, I don't actually deal with that block and I don't know the names of all of them off by heart, I'm afraid, sorry.
Right, but, so who does deal with that block?
There's a mix of people in there, but like I said, we are dealing with this with the council.
Right, so that is...
Actually, to be honest, sorry, I don't actually want to be filmed right now. I don't give my permission at all to be filmed.
Well, that's all right. Well, it's going out anyway. So, okay, well, that's the attitude of Baron Holmes, making that what you will. I think that's pretty shabby, to be honest with you. Not allowed to see Mrs. Blanco, doesn't want to be filmed, doesn't give permission. Well, it's tough luck. Who gives them permission to provide people with slum homes? Who gives them permission to put people in places where children's health is at risk? And they moan about us, having a go at them. This is Baron Holmes, people, 10 Prince Albert Street.
But all they do is just pass the buck from one to the other, don't they? Council to Baron Holmes. So people only get so far up the ladder, and then you just get passed from pillar to post. So you never actually get anywhere. The only other way that they can confront this is by the housing ombudsman. But then by getting the housing ombudsman involved, that can take up to a year or so, because they need a housing ombudsman to send the files and their findings back to BHC and Baron Holmes. So that's another stalling process.
Oh, she's talking about ETHRAG there, like she knows. It's all in the council's hands. So the next stop then is the council, I guess.
Yeah.
Right, so Brighton and Hove City Council, here we come. This is Kenny Lloyd reporting from Brighton and Hove City, the city of Brighton and Hove, telling you that apathy is no longer an option. And if you're watching Brighton and Hove City Council, you're next. So just to finish off then, we're here outside the HQ of Brighton and Hove City Council, which is Brighton Town Hall. And Mo, if you'd just like to sum up what's gone on today and how we can help others out there in a similar position, what would you like to say?
Well, it's like banging your head against a brick wall, as you know. Everybody passes the buck. I don't know about specific cases and individuals, so they lump it all together so they don't have to deal with the individual cases. All I can say to people is there are various people that are collecting the stories and the horror stories from people that are living in emergency or temporary accommodation. I would urge people still stand up and keep coming forward. They can't evict everyone, you know. They can't evict everyone, then because they'll move money out of their pocket. Yeah, they need people in these properties to keep them running and to keep making profit off of people's misery. So I would urge people to still start coming forward, to write to the housing ombudsman, to go higher, to try and get this talked about in Parliament, support ETHRAG, support all the other groups that are actually standing up against this, write to your local councillors, and just keep making noise, because there's only so long that they can ignore us for.
That's right, and the more voices that are unspoken out there, the more we need to speak up on their behalf. And I believe also OpSafe. OpSafe Winter is also part of this whole genre of homelessness and poverty. I mean, have you got anything to say about that?
Well, yeah, because there's a close link in between it. Everybody thinks that once you get into temporary or emergency accommodation, that everything's all hunky-dory. People move into these temporary and emergency accommodations. They have nothing inside them. The places are inhabitable. They are extortionate rent, so you won't be able to get a job and work yourself out of poverty. And
you've just seen the attitude of Baron Holmes here. You were sitting there as a witness, so they can't say that it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, they just, like I said, they just say that they don't deal with individual cases and that they don't know the individual names. They know the names. There's a list of people.
Yeah. I mean, how did you rate their performance, 1 to 10?
Naught.
So between them, this lot in here, the council and Baron Holmes, are taking millions of pounds of money a year off the taxpayers, yet don't they have a duty of care to provide suitable accommodation for these people?
Well, they do, but I think they just think that just because you've got a house, you know, a roof over your head, that people should be grateful for that. They should be habitable living conditions.
And yet they're breaking international law, because that is actually our fundamental right under international law, is to have decent shelter, is it not?
Yeah, everyone's entitled to safety, a house, and basic human rights, running water, toilets, etc.
But basically, we could actually take this to the European Court of Human Rights and get it checked out there, maybe.
Yeah, before we leave Brexit.
Before we leave, yeah. Okay, this is Kenny Lloyd.
One more thing is that I'd like to state is that people, getting back to the thing that you're secure once you're in emergency or temporary accommodation, their actual contracts can be cancelled and are cancelled with less than 24 hours notice, and then they're back out on the street, so there's still no security in this. And quite often people that speak up, that's exactly what happens. Their contracts are terminated, 24 hours notice, and then they're back out on the streets.
And of course, there's people in this building behind me on 6-figure salaries doing fuck all for it, basically.
Warren Morgan earns more than local MPs.
Warren Morgan, there you go. Warren Morgan, Labour leader of Brighton and Hove City Council, earns more than MPs. So they earn 75 grand a year. So what money is he on? And he's just a local nobody. But yet he is the one who's always in the local media saying, oh, we're dealing with it.
On social media, all Warren Morgan does is actually block individuals from all the different groups so that we can't actually respond to anything.
But luckily, because of Bobby Carver, really, this has brought a lot of people's attention. This has brought this right out in the open, even in the mainstream media. I mean, I understand that Peter Carr, MP for Hove and Port Slade's been there to see him today. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I am aware of that. I'm also aware that they had a meeting with Councillor Ann Meadows as well, and she's retracting back on the statement and still saying that Bobby isn't trapped in his flat.
Well, despite the fact she's been there to see him, despite the fact that people that are there seeing the film, that just says it all, doesn't it? That is Brighton and Hove City Council for you. Corrupt as fuck. Your council are bound to be the same. Speak up on behalf of these people, because one day it could be you, it could be your children, it could be your grandparents. So please, 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 apathy is no longer an option. Yeah.